The sectioning pattern is fairly simple. It's going to be a diamond shape with concave sides and then a C curvature to connect that on each side. So I'm going to start by placing the diamond in first. She already has a middle parting, so what I'm going to do is just step slightly back from where her hairline is and take a C curvature to the radial line. Now this can be any size that you want it to be. What you want to think about is the more layers your model or your client has, the bigger you need that diamond to be. So I'm just going to continue that to the center back. Let me turn it so you guys can take a look. It's basically half. Then I'm going to do the same thing on the opposite side. So the best way to check if your diamond is balanced is really to separate it in half vertically. So I'm just going to take a line. It doesn't have to be perfect when you're checking for balance. And what you want to do is just lay that over your hand or your arm, and then what you're going to do is check to see any color that you see underneath is what's going to be exposed, and that's where we're going to work all of that lightness. So for me, I think that's just about perfect. So I'm just going to go ahead and secure this section. And you want to keep your sections nice and tight so that you can see what you're doing and it always looks nice and clean. So what I'm going to do now is go ahead and connect to my next section. I'm just going to take a C curvature parting the opposite direction. So for the diamond, I went concave, now I'm going to go convex. So what these C curvature partings do is they give you a softer blend than a horizontal line or a straight line because you're curving with the head shape. Just connecting back to that diamond, the point of the diamond in the back. I'm going to secure this. So you can see that that works all the way around, and I'm just going to do the same thing on the opposite side. So this time I'm going to work from my point to the front of the head shape. And in this case, what I'm going to do to check for balance is just turn her to the mirror and just see if it's even. For my formula, it's time to mix. So I'm using 3 different tones. We're going to create a wooden variety in her hair, so we're using tones of redwood, deep mahogany, and then a lighter pine tone as well. So that really soft, lighter blonde, a rich redwood, and then our darkest tone is that deep mahogany. And put my gloves on before I get started. Okay, so as I get started, what I'm going to do is work from the bottom to the top. That's going to be the best way to keep it nice and neat. So in this underneath section, what I'm going to be doing is working with my medium tone, always at the base. And that again is at level 6, golden copper, with a little bit of that violet mixer. So we're going to call it redwood from here on out. So I'm just going to go ahead and apply that all around my hairline in the front and around the top part of my section. So I'm just going to kind of outline my section here, being really careful to apply neatly around the hairline. So basically you're going to have a soft, effortless color. You know, think about the 90s and you really think about how it was laid back, it was very loose feeling. The colors that we're using are saturated, but they almost have a quality to them of films and Polaroids from the 70s and 90s. So a little bit of that really warm tone, probably like some of the Instagram tints that you have on your phone. So on the underneath area here, we're going to be working with the medium tone at the base, and then on the ends, we'll be working out to our lightest tone. Then in these 2 sections here, we're going to start to work the color pattern in a little bit more where we're alternating all 3 of our colors. That's really where the majority of the technique takes place. Now, I'm going from medium to light on the underneath because I'm trying to create a similar feeling to if Shira has been coloring her hair for a long time. She naturally would probably have lighter tones at the bottom. So this is very easy to transition your clients who have just a classic head of highlights into this type of look. It's a little bit softer and more seamless. You know, sometimes when you're doing highlights, classic highlights and foil packets, you really see exactly where you put them in. This is going to have a lot more movement, but still have a classic feeling as an end result. So it's not one of the trends that you can't use right away in the salon to make money. So I'm just taking horizontal sections from the base to the top of my section. And I'm laying my brush just across the top of my color bowl so I never get a lot of color into down here on the base of the brush, just on the bristles. That's the only place we need it. Today I'm working with brunettes with this technique, but you can really apply this technique to any color choice. You could do it in reds, you could do it in blondes. Now, a good frame of mind to keep in is you want to kind of stay about 2 levels apart from each other, especially when you're first starting with these techniques, because you want to kind of practice your blending a little bit. So, let's say you're doing a blonde, you could do a level 7, a level 9, and then a lightener. And if you're doing redheads, maybe 3 different shades of red, but all kind of similar. And then as you get more comfortable with these blending techniques, then you can start to go further apart and a little bit more contrast. This is basically called root shading, and I'm just laying in the base, and then from there we work the technique out. It gives a nice seamless blend to everything, and it gives the haircut a lot of movement because it's not kind of lines that are stuck to the head. It kind of unifies the whole look. So the roots everywhere will be our redwood tone, which is our medium color. Take horizontal sections from the bottom about 1/2 inch thick. That's probably about as thick as you want your sections because you want to make sure that you have really good saturation. And now for this, I'm going to work everything down onto one mesh strip. So the great thing about these meshes is that they kind of use the color almost like an adhesive. So once there's color on the scalp, you just put them there and they stay. So you don't have to worry about it falling out. So I'm going to pull my base color, the redwood, down a little bit further, about midway down the hair strand, and then work with my lightest tone, which will be that maple color, and work from the bottom, then work an exaggerated feathering technique into that pre-existing color. So you can see here that I'm actually blending those tones together, and that's okay if they touch. You want to almost create another color in the middle of that. So you want to just keep blending that in. Now the key is to not put too much product on your brush to where it looks kind of blobby. You want it to look seamless. So what I'm doing here is just using one mesh. I don't need to separate because basically this whole section is being blocked in the same manner. But I am varying the amount of lightener, how far I go up. But it's all going to blend in together. This is not one of those color techniques where you have to worry about things touching each other. The more it blends in, the better. So again, I'm going to bring my root shade color down, and then I'm going to use first the flat of my brush, start on the ends of the hair, and then I'm going to use the side angle of my brush and work this exaggerated feathering. Okay, so I've completed that technique on both sides here, and you can see that I've left my mesh open just so I can see exactly to have that line up and balanced correctly. I don't want to have one side up higher and make it asymmetric. So I've left it open until now, and now I'm going to go ahead and close these sections. So to do that, I'm just going to take another mesh, and then I'll simply just place it on top. And the great thing is that it just adheres to the hair. That same thing on the opposite side. Just press it gently so it sticks, and then you're done. So moving forward with the technique, I'm going to start to work into my side geometric shapes. So what I'm going to be doing here is a combination of weaving and color layering. This is going to give us a lot of movement and taking a lot of influence from almost a wooden, like a slice of a tree, how you see lots of that movement of the grains. We're going to recreate that same feeling with the hair. And that really works well in with that grunge feeling as well as that kind of effortless feel. So it's all about your blending technique. So what I'm going to be doing is taking diagonal back sections, moving away from the face. So I'll be taking those all the way back to the back of the head shape. Now, instead of coloring all my roots first, I'm going to color them as I go. Now, in this section as well, the level 6 redwood will be my color that is at the base. So my first section, I'm just going to take diagonal back, clip this hair out of my way. Now, I'll just put a mesh strip. So I'm going to be working my level 6 just at the roots here. That basically lets the mesh strip stick, so it's fine now, I don't have to touch it. So on this first section, what I'm going to be doing is actually the same thing that I did on the underneath. I'm going to be pulling my medium tone down further and working my lightest color on the ends. But now I'm going to be bringing that up a little bit higher than it was before. So instead of going 3/4 of the way down, I'm maybe only going a quarter of the way down. So as it gets closer to Shira's face, I'm bringing those lighter colors up higher. So this is where it really starts to change and transition from being that ombre type of feeling into being more kind of model off-duty. So here you can see that I'm applying my root shade as I go. That's so that the color doesn't end up moving out too far on the hair strand while I'm working through the section. This really keeps it neat. I can really control how much of that root shade I put in there. So now what I'm going to do is actually just fold this mesh and stick it back to itself. And that's how I'll be using these meshes from here on out. So I'm going to go ahead and take my next slice. So I'm working with slices here. But now what I'm going to do is I'm going to weave all the way through this slice. So now that I've taken it, I'm going to go ahead and apply my root shade color to the roots first. And that again is my level 6 Redwood. And I'm being a little bit more cautious with my root shade here than I was on the underneath because I want to have the color a little bit closer to the scalp here. This is where we're meshing progressive placement and ombre with a classic highlight. So your clients still feel like they have color everywhere, but it has that softness to it. So now I'm going to weave all the way through my section. I'm going to move this first weave out of the way. And I'm going to place these weaves in another mesh panel. So again, the mesh just sticks to that hair color. And I'm going to introduce that deep mahogany tone. So I'm going to work that all the way into the root area. Using the same blending, so I want to apply more color at the bottom and then less color as I blend into the roots. So in this case here, what I'm doing, the reason that I'm folding these mesh is not only so it looks nice and neat for my client, but also so if I ever get lost in my pattern, all I have to do is kind of check in that bubble because I can see exactly what's happening in there. So it helps you keep track of your pattern in case you're talking to your client or thinking about lunch and you kind of forget where you are. So now I'm going to do that other side of the weave, but now I'm going to use my lightest tone. So that's that maple color, which in this case is my pre-lightener. So I'm doing a combination here of weaving and color layering down the hair strand, and that's what's going to give me that kind of wooden grain feeling in the end result. My next slice, what I'm going to be doing here is going back to color layering. We're going from medium to dark to light, or from medium to light on all of our color layering slices. Now with the weave, we're just alternating light and medium or light and dark. All right, so just weaving through this section. And here, what I'm going to be doing is taking light on one weave and medium on the opposite weave. And the really fun thing about trends is now it's time in your career to where you can start interpreting trends any way that you would like and figuring out where you want to go with them and what inspires you. And that's really something that keeps you motivated as you go further into your career, is starting to interpret the trends your way and turning them into money in your pocket as well. So at this point, I've completed my color layering pattern. So the first slice is from medium to light. The second slice is broken into weaves, light and dark. The third slice is medium to dark to light. And the fourth slice is again broken into weaves, this time using light and medium. So you're basically going to repeat that same pattern as you work back through the head shape, as well as repeating that on the opposite side. And if all of this seems a bit confusing and a lot of steps, don't worry about it. You can always download the step-by-step online. Sometimes it can help to write down your pattern on one of these mesh strips and just keep it on your tray so that you can remind yourself as you're working through it with your client. So I've completed that same color layering pattern. We have 4 different patterns. And this is my last section or subsection within my geometric shaping. So the last one I'm on is actually, I just ended up with this as my last section. It doesn't really matter what you end with. It depends how thick your slices are. But this doesn't need to be a certain amount of subsections. You just keep going until you get to the end. So my last one is where I work from the level 6 redwood at the roots, the level 5 deep mahogany at the mid strand here, and then working out to the light maple on the very ends. So this will complete this side of the section, and then I'm going to do the same thing on the opposite side. Now what is important is that you remember which one you started with and start with that same thing on the opposite side. But luckily enough, if you forgot, our packets are open, so you can just look in and check. So when you have hair that's longer than your mesh, then you just want to flip it up and kind of coil it into a little section there. Just make sure you're saturating enough lightener on there so you can get that degree of lightness that you want. And again, using that exaggerated feathering motion. And now, since I have a couple different colors, I'm just going to close this a little bit lower so that my lightener doesn't get onto my deep mahogany. But I can leave that open, that's not a problem. Okay, so now I'm going to move to the opposite side. But first I want to get this out of my client's face because it's not very comfortable to sit like that. So you can just bend those and then put that one over, and now she can see again. So just to recap where we are right now, the underneath is all medium to light. Then we did the color layering pattern in these 2 geometric sections. And to finish, what we're gonna do is color block this whole top section. So this diamond, the whole thing is gonna be just our level 6 redwood tone. And I'm just gonna pull the color through in horizontal sections. So my first step is just gonna be to outline my diamond, make sure I have the perimeter colored well. And then I'll just be pulling that color all the way through. And what this is gonna do is basically fall over the entire shape like a veil of color. So it softens all of that lightness that we have on the underneath. This is the area that makes it look really natural. All right, so I've gone ahead and I've applied my level 6 redwood color to the roots in that entire diamond section. And now I'm just gonna use my pintail comb and I'm just gonna drag that color through a little bit. This is just making sure that it's applied nice and evenly and just moving any excess color down the hair strand a little bit. Now I'll go ahead and apply all the way through the links and ends. So I'm gonna work everything down onto one mesh. And I'll just work it in my hands and lay it down on that mesh strip. Because I wanna make sure I'm taking a little bit of thicker sections here. So I wanna make sure that I have really good saturation. So I'll kind of squiggle it around a little bit, if you will. You're just kind of massaging it as you pull that color through. The difference of what we're doing here as opposed to the underneath is that we're not gonna coil this hair back up onto the mesh strip. Really what's happening is it's keeping everything nice and neat for me. Because what I'm gonna do when I'm done with everything is take all of this hair and pile it up onto the top. So right now, it's just a placeholder, and then I'll move everything after that. What I'm gonna do now, just to keep everything nice and neat and in control, is just remove that placeholder that I had talked about before. Just get rid of that guy. And then what I'm gonna do is just coil this up on the top of her head. And that will be the last step in completing the technique. With this type of technique, when you're working with the mesh and progressive placement, clients get so interested in it because it looks visually very different than it does when you're doing foils. And it looks cool, you kind of involve them in the process a bit more. I'm so excited to see Shira's hair done, and we'll process her as fast as possible, but we have to wait the recommended time. So 30 minutes from now, we'll be right back and you can see it then. As you can see, we've finished shampooing Shira. We just did an emulsification at the shampoo bowl, meaning we kind of mushed everything together. That's a fancy word for that. So we pulled all of the mesh strips out at once, mushed it around a bit, rinsed and shampooed. So as you can see already, it's really a nice, rich, beautiful tone. We had to do that double processing in the beginning to be able to get this clarity of tone and this richness without it looking brassy. So that's the difference. It's warm, but it's not a brassy warm. And you can see, I'm just gonna take a few sections here, how beautiful those maple colors are coming in, as well as you're starting to see some of the mahoganies in there as well. So you're really gonna be able to see that more once it starts to dry. And then just as I pull everything to the front, you can see all of that work that we did on the underneath is really gonna peek out